worked at a salad place. There's one guy that came in, he's like, all right, I got my perfect like DIY salad. It's like some bro, like a finance bro. He's like, let me do this, and golden beets. And I looked down, I'm like, we don't have beets. And he just went, fuck. So loud. So loud that I was like, yeah.
Ruins my day.
Yeah, I didn't want to blow out this mic, but that was what he did. And then I made him a salad anyway, and I realized we had beets, and I was supposed to prep them, and I just didn't. They were like sitting right there, and I was like, I don't even want to tell him.
So funny. Hello and welcome to Cleopatra. I'm Christy Bana.
And I'm Lynn Molly, and we're two Middle Eastern comedy queens digging up the funny from the first generation experience.
Our guest today is a hilarious comedian based in Los Angeles. He has a regular show at the Hollywood Improv called Joke Off. He performs regularly at the Comedy Store. He's an actor. He's a podcaster. He's a comedian. He is such a hyphenate, you won't even believe it. Everyone give it up for Zack Chapaloni. Yay! Every two people in this room, give it up.
I
like to pretend that there's like 30 people in the room.
Yeah, I did kind of. How's everyone doing? Thank you.
Yeah,
hey, you.
We're gonna add that in post. That there's all, just like all the cool TikTok comedians are doing now. We're gonna add laughter in post.
Ooh, shots fired.
Name names, Christy. Name names.
I don't know any actually. I've just seen them. But not enough to remember them.
I know one.
Oh, yeah?
I know one stand-up comedian, but I will not name names.
Okay.
I can name it, but I don't know if I can say his last name right.
We can bleep it out if you don't want to.
Pete Guercio.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, I know who that is.
He runs Jetpack. Mm-hmm. He has gone viral for that.
On purpose, though.
Well, yeah, I would assume, yeah.
He's putting the laughs in on purpose. Like, ha ha ha, isn't this so funny that I'm clearly doing it? Or is
He's
it not
pretending
ironic?
his apartment is a comedy club.
Okay.
And huge audience reactions for bits that are performed in front of no one.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so yeah, it's very self-conscious.
Has to be tongue in cheek.
Yes,
Not
of course.
sneaky.
But what's funny is it is kind of like rage baity, because now you have people who I don't know, people who aren't even comedians, who are mad that this guy is doing that and getting likes, but the comments are driving up the. It's such a mudslingy world we live in, where it's like, if you can piss someone off, you're doing a good job.
Oh, we've found that on our podcast.
Yeah.
If anything is just slightly controversial,
Yeah.
So anything like slightly inaccurate.
Yeah. Or just, the fact that we exist here as like first gens.
Yeah.
So like you guys are killing your numbers in Tulsa, Oklahoma right now. Are just like,
Yeah, absolutely.
they're like, this is what I was afraid
They
of.
hate us. You libtards. It's like what we. That's the byline.
They don't have a word for you yet.
I like when they just say "Go Trump," and it's like we're not even talking about Trump.
We're not even talking about Donald Trump. Yeah. And then the comments will be like, "Go Trump." They see that we got like 2,000 views, and they're like, "Now's my chance, go Trump!"
Yeah.
Now's my chance
Doing
to
my
influence this election.
That's how they canvass.
That's them, virtually knocking on doors. I was referring to like people who do just add laughs when they did not get laughs anyway, or like they just didn't have a lot of people in the room, and so they like supplemented it with, which is a very charitable way of saying doctoring / cheating.
I've done the raise the volume on the laughs. I've done that before.
Sometimes the audience is just not mic'd up well enough.
Exactly.
That I understand. I am such a worrywart that I would be afraid that people would hear it or see it and be like, this is fake.
Yeah, but I don't. It just means you're a good person. Like you're that afraid of the backlash from your peers that it's like you're doing great. And if they don't understand that the audience wasn't mic'd up well enough, then like why should you be sorry? You know what I mean? Like,
well, I'm told that in comedy the number one thing you need is not to be funny but to have credibility among your peers.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, I thought it was
about to say.
No. That was me jokingly saying like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What am I doing?
What
Zach?
am I doing? What are any of us doing?
Actually, we brought you here so that I can have an intervention. What am I doing?
Yeah, I got you.
I truly thought you were going to say the secret is to just have a really good tape. That's where I thought that was going.
I've heard that too. I think actually it's more important in law. Your credibility is more important in law. And I somehow think that that's still a very important thing in comedy.
I think it's not at all, actually, because how many times have you seen someone with like 1 million fake followers getting booked on every show? I don't think credibility matters at all.
Yeah, well, we're in LA, so we are where credibility is the most like Instagram follower based thing. Right. I feel like New York has this allure of like, this is where it's all about being funny.
Yeah,
for sure.
Fuck the bullshit. Are you funny up there or are you not? Want to come open for me in Schenectady?
I like this character. I like this character Ryu. Yeah. I need you to do like...
I don't care how many followers you got. Can you take that audience and make them your bitch? How'd you like to come to Atlantic City?
You're about to sell me a timeshare as well.
Yeah.
That's funny. Have you ever done comedy in New York?
Yeah. I would try to go once a year. It's honestly, it's like Disneyland for comedians.
It absolutely is.
Like you can do sets everywhere. No one cares if you're famous or like their audiences are genuinely there to have a good time and laugh.
And churros are $17.
Yeah, exactly. A window is going to cost you $20,000 if you want to see outside from wherever you're staying. But it's like you don't need a car. You can just kind of like bounce around everywhere. It just feels like you're going on different rides at Disneyland, but they're all just different bar shows and people are really funny.
I did 2 shows in LA on Tuesday, brag, and my heart was racing like on the freeway getting from Westwood to the east side.
I hate that.
It was so stressful. I was like, I don't want to do 2 shows in LA anymore. Like, I don't want to do this again.
I hate, sometimes I have this funny, like this funny like mode I get in where if I book like 3 shows or something, like by the grace of God, I book like a string of shows in one night and then I bomb the first one. My head just starts I just start laughing at myself being like, I gotta go bomb at another show right now. I gotta go. Thank you so much for having me. I got 2 more bombs to get in.
I thought you were gonna say I gotta like win it back.
No, well, I mean, deep down, yes. But the part of me that laughs at myself is like, all right, dude, you got like 10 minutes and then you got to get in the car and be in Ventura to bomb real quick. And then you got to get to Burbank and bomb.
I once had 3 shows in LA and I didn't make the 3rd show. I don't even think it's possible. You've done 3 shows in LA?
3 is tough. But I'm lucky because I get like, if you get up at the Comedy Store, they have 3 rooms. Right. So sometimes you can get in two shows at the same place. Mm-hmm.
And then if you're a bigger comedian, then you just go 1 mile to the Improv and you do your
If you're not on
4 shows.
3 freeways, are you really doing 3 shows?
Is
my question.
I agree. That's just one show with an intermission.
Hat trick, Comedy Store. You need to take a freeway for me to be impressed.
This is LA. Get in your car.
So for the listeners, the hat trick is what they call it when you perform on all 3 stages at the Comedy Store in one night. And
Fahim Anwar has a special called Hat Trick, where I think he does a little bit in every room.
Amazing.
This is my first time learning that. Like, I know what a hat trick is, but I didn't know that was
what they call it when you perform.
Wow.
So when you pull it off, it's like a big deal because to do the belly room, the original room, and the main room.
Yeah, it's pretty special. Pretty special.
Pretty special.
Yeah.
What if you do the Comedy Store, the Laugh Factory, and the Improv? Can you call that a hat trick?
That's called the Devil's Triangle.
Yeah.
Of course.
What is that? No.
Yeah, it would. Yeah, that is something though. It's certainly like, I feel like a dream for anyone that moves to LA is to be able to do all 3 clubs in a night.
Ooh, the 3 of clubs.
3 of clubs. Well, there is a place called the 3 Clubs.
Yes, of course, but there's only 2 clubs in it.
Really?
Yeah, there's no 3rd club.
We call it a club sandwich right over here. And no, just any stupid ass name, people would believe us.
I know, the 3 Clubs. You're like, there's only 2. And they go, this one's a little bit, got a lot of questions, this one. Can we talk to you in the back? Show it a 3rd club.
Show it a 3rd club. It's a crowbar. It's an actual billy club. Yeah. For anyone who asks.
Yeah. Like my classic LA accent there.
Yes.
This is Los Angeles.
This is a character waiting to happen in your LA versus New York. Like, you go back and forth.
I'm always getting chicken tenders. I'm an old comic. I just like chicken tenders and fries.
You know why I always get the chicken tenders? You can't fuck them up. And even when you fuck them up, you can't really fuck them up.
I ask every server their name and never remember. What is your name? Wow, thank you.
What do you recommend today? The lasagna? I'll add the chicken tenders. Thank you. For whatever reason, that used to be my default as well. Such to the point where people in school thought that was my accent.
Like a New York one?
Yeah.
Huh.
I had a roommate from Long Island, and so I feel like I inadvertently started adopting her cadence.
Yeah, I do that. When I have friends from New Orleans, and when I'm hanging out with all of them in the South, I start to develop an accent, and they'll look at me like, "What the fuck are you doing, dude?"
We're highly
Culture
empathetic
vulture?
people.
I gotta say, I'm from Jersey, and these accents you're dropping, I've never heard in my entire life.
What's the matter with you? What do you mean you never?
Like, I really enjoy them, but
Yeah.
I don't know where they're coming from.
When I was in New Orleans, I was asking for directions to get somewhere, and the person told me to make a right on Burgundy, and I was like, what? Okay, Burgundy. And I like kept walking, and then I walked back to this man's house and was like, what street? And he was like, Burgundy. And then finally we realized he was saying Burgundy.
Of course.
Oh.
And I was like, God damn me
Yeah.
and my elitist pronunciation of pralines and Burgundy.
Yeah. You're like, we northern folk pronounce our R's.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it becomes closing arguments in To Kill a Mockingbird.
Scopes trial.
I do declare, oh God. That is my favorite bit though. Just like Southern
Lawyer.
lawyer.
Yeah.
Wearing what is that? Seersucker.
Seersucker. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why, one of my favorite movies, like if you're ever when you're on the road, you just turn on the hotel TV. Mm-hmm. And when do you ever flip channels anymore?
Such a joy.
It's like a lost
Yeah.
privilege. And I flipped to My Cousin Vinny, and I forgot how amazing that was. I got sucked in. It's like the best of both worlds. It's like the New York mafios, vaguely affiliated guy, and then like deep Southern Alabama, law offices of Sawyer and Huckleberry.
It was an absolute classic.
Yeah.
I think of it often. I took you're gonna actually, I never told you this. I took a film in class in law school. And they actually had ethics electives that we had to take. And one of them was we watched a bunch of movies that dealt with the law, and then we had to write a paper about
How
something
bullshit it all was.
Yeah. I wrote mine about The Lincoln Lawyer and To Kill a Mockingbird. I fucking love The Lincoln Lawyer.
Dude, The
Matthew
Lincoln Lawyer-
McConaughey, such an underrated movie.
That movie is phenomenal.
It's so good.
It's, yeah.
You seen it?
I've never seen it.
They
I
made a
highly
show.
recommend-
I haven't seen the show.
Okay, I haven't seen the show either, but I saw it. It's on Netflix, right?
I don't know what it's on, but the movie was so good that I'm almost mad.
Same. I didn't
I'm like,
watch.
don't do
I was like,
this.
there's no way they're gonna be able to.
Yeah.
What
do
was
this.
it on? Who produced it?
I just, LA, I just remember seeing a billboard about
Okay,
it.
I was just trying to see if in my head I thought it could be done well. Because if it's like HBO Max, you're like, oh, that could maybe be good.
Yeah, right. Yeah, certain productions, you're like, all right, let's see what you got here,
Yeah,
Matt.
it's true. You're like, I'll bite.
Yeah. I auditioned for the role of Danny DeVito's character in The Rainmaker. They're doing a show of The Rainmaker.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Wow.
Blumhouse got it, and I think it's gonna be on Paramount. And I worked so hard, I wanted it so bad, but I never heard
Would have been
back.
great.
I practiced so hard. That movie is another great one, and it's also corporate America. It's the insurance company not wanting to pay for killing, causing your early death.
We can break that actor's legs.
That'd be great.
Yeah, sure.
Whoever it ends up being.
Yeah.
I just write back. I'm like, thank you so much for the opportunity. By the way, who got it? I'm a little curious who got it, and then.
Cut to you refreshing IMDb. So you got this motherfucker.
It's like a half Moroccan man who looks exactly like you,
We're
but
out
with the New
there.
York accent.
It's Bizarro Jack.
Moroccans
Zach,
got the
named
accents.
Jack.
The Bob Marley guy. He's half Moroccan.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah, something Benadir, I think. I can't remember his fucking last name. So we could do Jamaican.
Yeah.
We can do. Yeah, I mean it's all gonna be offensive, but we can do it because we're kind of in the middle of it all.
Just right in the thick
Yeah,
of
we're
it.
at the top of Africa. What are we?
Yeah, check every box.
Call yourself African American ever?
When I was a kid, my dad would fill out the census, and he would put us as African American, and they called us. I'm like, what? You're white. My dad's an Italian white. He's San Franciscan, basically. That's his identity. And
That's his racist San Francisco.
yeah, he's I'm San Franciscan. Get the fuck out of my... old San Francisco, they have a weird New York accent. It's very weird. They wouldn't
The
call
Brooklyn Dodgers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't call the Castro because they were like, you know, old school. They were like cops and firemen, and some of them were closeted, but the rest were like, no, we don't. We go to church, and they would call it Eureka Valley. And so they'd be like, yeah, he's a good kid. Grew up in Eureka Valley. Good kid. I'm like, what is this voice? Like, where did it come over?
So funny.
Is everyone in San Francisco, though, from New York? That feels right.
Could be. Well, everyone in San Francisco is like from everywhere.
Yeah, it's kind of
because of the gold rush, I guess.
Well, I was also gonna say because of the tech now.
Like
everyone is
now,
from
I thought you were talking about
Midwest.
old San Francisco. Yeah. Everyone's from Michigan, like the greater suburban Michigan area.
Did you grow up in San Francisco?
I grew up in Marin County.
Okay.
Wow.
Bougie.
Oh la la.
Wow.
We do well. We do very well.
We both grew up in bougie environments.
Really?
Yeah.
Immigrants know where to land.
Yeah. Sure do.
People are like, you grew up
in a
rich.
bougie. I don't know why. But I feel like I lived in Berkeley before the tech boom, and I came back after and was like, oh, this sucks.
Night and day. Yeah.
Well, I guess it's tech boom. The first one was like what, 2000?
Yeah. Well, you're not talking about that one.
I'm not talking about the .com boom.
Yeah, right.
I'm talking about the tech, like before all the tech companies and like
the
Twitter.
one that didn't bust.
Yes.
The one that is still growing and may never actually pop.
I don't know. Inshallah, it'll pop soon.
That would be sick.
Have you been to you have. San Francisco, it's weird right now. It's like a lost place for like...
It's interesting because it's beautiful. Like you see a drone shot, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And you're walking around the streets and you're like these buildings, this architecture.
The air is like crisp from the
Yeah.
fog, just like purifying it every day.
But then you go to the FiDi and there's a tumbleweed of USB cables.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely devoid of like...
I used to work there.
Yeah. Where'd you used to work?
I worked at a salad place. It was actually called Mixed Greens. Now they're huge. They're called Mixed.
Which one? The one on Beale? Off Beale Street?
No, I was on the one. It was the fourth one they did, which was on Stewart and right, almost at the Embarcadero.
Oh, okay. I used to go there all the time.
Really?
Because I used to work down there. Yeah, I used to work in Embarcadero 1, and then I used to work at one Spear.
We
Were
would
you
cater all
making
their
her
things.
salads?
I might have
You were
made your
probably
salad.
making me salads.
Yeah, 100%.
And I would have been like, hurry up, I've got a meeting.
Yeah, totally. There was
Buy,
one
sell,
guy.
buy, sell. I have 3 cell phones.
Everyone was like that. There was one guy that came in. He's like, all right, I got my perfect like DIY salad. It's like some bro, like a finance bro. He's like, let me do this, and golden beets. And I looked down. I'm like, we don't have beets. And he just went, fuck, so loud that I was like,
Ruins my day.
yeah, I didn't want to blow out this mic, but that was what he did. And then I made him a salad anyway, and I realized we had beets, and I was supposed to prep them, and I just didn't. They were like sitting right there.
But were they
with
golden?
the peeled on. They were golden.
Oh my God.
And I was like,
That's
I don't even want to tell him.
so funny. I love that so much. Okay, so you grew up in Marin.
I do feel like we have to go back a little bit for the sake of the pod.
Sure.
I was going to say you grew up in Marin, and how'd your parents get there?
Look at that.
Oh, is that part of it?
Well,
Okay.
usually we like to go back to like where they started,
Fresh
how they
off the
got
boat
here.
kind
Yeah.
of thing. Yeah, so my mom moved from Morocco to the Bay Area. It's like a crazy, wild story. I don't even know if we have time for it. But
We do. That's the whole point of this podcast.
Okay, so my mom she's like the greatest woman I've ever come across in my entire life, or out of. And she came from a village that's not even on the map. It's not even on a map of Morocco. It's called Fini. And it's outside of like a mining town called Karibga. And she grew up very, very poor. Her family actually like just gave her up. Like there was no like parenting or like love between her and her parents. So she was like the second oldest of 9. And when she was born, her aunt was like, I wish I could have kids. And they had lived in the city. They lived in Casablanca. My grandma was just like, don't take this one.
Take it.
Take this baby.
some.
Yeah, this one's yours.
Oh my.
And
Like a piece of fruit. She put in a paper towel.
yes.
She was like, take this.
Before you go, hey, keep the Tupperware. Yeah. And so my mom grew up a little bit in Casablanca, and then her mom would come and visit once in a while, and she always wanted to be with this woman. And the woman, like, my mom felt a connection to her, but she would like not hold my mom or like touch her. Like she was just kind of like, hey. And my mom like she's like, I don't know when I learned that like that's my mom, but I found out at some point.
Wow.
And so,
so she doesn't remember the transfer.
she doesn't know what happened, but she knew she wanted to. And my grandma was like a villager. So it was like this woman coming in like tribal, almost like clothing is like way different than the person that my mom is hearing as her mom. Mm-hmm. Like a city, these people are living in the city, you know, they're wearing like suits and they dress like, you know, like metropolitan area.
Yeah.
And so one day my mom was a little girl coming home from school, and some random dude is talking to my mom, and he goes, "You looking for your mom and dad?" And my mom's like, "Yeah, I'm trying to find." My mom just started walking towards where she thinks the village is, and the guy's like, "I know him. I'll take you." Kidnapped her.
What?
Yeah, kidnapped my mom's like a young child, and my mom just believed him. Like, we're going. And then she said at some point he was getting like meaner. And she started to feel like something wasn't right. And he takes her to a bus station, like the major bus station there, to go like very far away. And he's like kind of like yelling at my mom or like hit her or something and said like, "You wait there, like I'm going to get tickets." And God bless, I don't know where this came from, but this guy who working at the bus station, or I think he might have been like a postal worker, he was someone, government official at the bus station, saw my mom crying and dealing with this guy, and he was like, "Is that your dad?" And she was like, "I don't know who he is."
Oh my God.
And so he took my mom away, told
He's
them
like, "I know him, come on." She's like, "Okay." Jesus.
He told the people working there to arrest that guy, and took my mom to stay with his wife, who's pregnant, who's like, "Who's this little girl you brought with you?"
Oh my God.
And so then it takes days to get anything done in Morocco. This is like, you know, the 50s, I want to say 60s. And so they have to call to the village because they have to prove that she actually does have a dad. So they said, "Who is your dad? Where does he live?" And she goes, "I know his name's Kaddour, and I know he lives in this village, Phoenix." So she didn't even say the people that she's heard as his dad. She's trying to get to her real parents.
And her parents don't even have an Instagram, so
yeah, they're not. They're all about mental health. And so so then takes like weeks. Like they call the one phone in the village, and then they're like, "Tell Kaddour if he lives in the area. We have his daughter at this bus station outside of Casablanca." So after a while, it takes him forever to get out there. They line up a bunch of guys who look like him in like the tribal kind of like, you know, attire. And they tell my mom, "Okay, like which one is your dad?" And she runs up to her dad, jumps in his arms. Everyone's crying. Like all the men in the lineup are just like tears. And so her parents, her fake parents, you know, her aunt and uncle basically are hurt by this.
Yeah.
And they were like, "You want to go fucking live with your real parents? Go." And they started having kids. They like, my mom knew like, you guys are having kids. Something's different. And so they like were so hurt that they didn't want her, because they were like, "You don't want to be like, we give you everything and you just keep wanting to run with these people that don't even fucking like you." And so my mom goes to the village for the first time. She has like all these siblings.
Right. Shit.
And she hates the village. It's like bugs everywhere, scorpions, and like her siblings are like messing with her, like putting ants on her. She was like terrified of ants. And she grew up there a little bit, very poor. Like they didn't even have, like they couldn't even go to school. My mom would like sneak off after doing all the work and then go to the school in town. And they kind of would do this thing where it's like, well, you came in too early. You got to wait till the end of the year to submit to school. So she'd like go back home, and her parents didn't know how to read or write. And so then she'd come back later and they're like, "You came too late." And she's like, in hindsight, it was just their
like
way.
fucking with her.
Yeah, of being like, "Look, you're poor. You can't just go away." And some other kid's dad was like, "Well, why aren't you in school?" She's like, "They won't let me." And he like grabbed her hand. He's like, "This is my daughter's friend. You know, just made it up." Like she put her in school.
Was she regretting leaving Casablanca at this point?
I think she wanted to be. She found out she had siblings, and her parents had done this with other aunts and other siblings. So they'd just been like, "Take this one." So her goal became like, "Let me get all my siblings together, and we'll be a family." And then,
are you writing this movie?
Yeah, we always
my
ask
brother and
this.
I have like, yeah, we've worked on some stuff inspired by it. But so her dad starts doing the shady kind of, don't want to say Muslim dad thing, but it's guys that take advantage of a system that allows multiple wives. And so when they start cheating, they go, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm doing the multiple wives thing. But he had no money. And my mom's like, that whole thing is rooted in like men come back from war, some are dead, you got to provide. My mom's mom was like village rich a little bit. Like she had property. My mom's dad was like a peasant. Like straight up, they didn't have last names, you know, like they didn't have last names till the French were like, you got to come up with something. And my grandpa made up his last name about a woman he was in love with named Rahma. And he's like, what if I change I tell them my last name's Rahmawi. And she's like, don't do that. And
she's like, ew, we don't know each other.
Yeah, she's like, you are friend zoned for life. And he did. And that's our last name about some chick that he just like had a crush on. And so that he never got with. Or like, she's not in our family, this woman
That's
Rahma.
so funny.
And there are other Rahmawis that were like, are we related? I'm like, I promise you we're not. And
once your special blows up, they're going to come crawling out of the woodwork.
Rahmawis out of the woodwork. So my mom's dad starts having a side family, and he's a scammer. He came from nothing. You know, he worked for my grandma's family, and he wanted to marry in because he knew they had money. He was probably like in his 20s. My grandma was like 15, and he's like, I want to marry your daughter. And the guy's like, no, you're fucking poor as shit, dude. Get the fuck out of here. And so he shows up the next day with a goat, and he slaughters it on the front steps, and my great grandpa's like, this guy's cool. Like that's a high honor. And
in Italian culture, that's a threat.
That's a threat. Here, it's a feast. So he basically takes advantage of the wealth he married into. My uncle told me he would like go to the police station, punch himself, and be like, my wife beat me. And then they'd be like, all right, you owe him money. And she's like, what? And she's like head in the clouds. She just loves her guy, doesn't love her kids. And so my grandpa, his next scam is he promises to give my mom as a servant to a rich family.
Jesus.
And so this guy was, I think, having sex with his servants. He was a successful, powerful man near the village. But his wife was like, I want a servant that hasn't hit puberty yet, because then you can't do this bullshit he's doing. So he's like my mom hasn't hit, and he would check. He'd be like, have you got your blood? And my mom would be like, no. And she was just given away by her parents that she fought to get to. I'm moving fast.
Parents
here.
are like,
It's
take a penny, leave a penny,
yeah,
but for kids.
Kind of, yeah.
Also, like, I don't like that. I would be like less likely to give a prepubescent daughter to this creepy.
Especially when people are getting married at like 17 or 15 these days. So it's like,
yeah. So she went as a young girl. She's still, in our eyes, a little girl, and she's working for this. She goes to this event, doesn't even know that she's working for them. Like they set up dinner. They're like, you live here. You couldn't put your hair behind your ears because the wife was jealous. She didn't want any of the servants like looking cute. So you can't look them in the eye. You don't smile. You don't wear shoes, and you don't put your hair behind your ears ever. So you kind of like look like a child of the jungle.
Corn.
Yeah, wild. And you can't go to the bathroom in the bathroom. You got to go on the hillside. You go outside, go to the bathroom. So the first day my mom's there, and there are older servants that are obviously being sexually taken advantage of, but they're a little protective of her. And the head one is like, just help me prepare dinner for everyone. So they prepare dinner, set it up. My mom goes in to eat. He fucking clocks her right in the face.
Oh my God.
You don't eat until my family eats. And she's just stuck there in this like hell. And the guy's like checking, like, have you got your period yet? And she's like, the older servant is kind of like protective of her.
How polite of him for her
to just wait. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I
He's
mean,
like,
I guess it's like, I don't want to go to hell.
What a kind man.
You know, it could be, I know, really. He's like, I'm not a total monster. And so one day, the head servant and my mom hatch a plan to escape. And they turn on all the gas in the house because when you come home, my mom said she was looking over someone's shoulder, like saw a TV playing, and there was like an old like detective movie or something where they turn the gas on and they run and it explodes. So they were like gonna kill this guy. And
they missed the part where they had to light a match.
Exactly, completely. I was like, were you expecting him to smoke a cigar? I was like, I just thought it goes boom.
Really think it's true.
Yeah, we're like villagers. We don't know how anything works. And so they turn on the gas, they leave, and they go, because he was out for the day, family was out, and they go to the neighboring house. They're like wandering through the night, and they basically knock on someone else's door, like, can we stay here for a little bit? We're just traveling through. And the older servant kind of got wind of like, this guy knows the guy we work for. He's very powerful. So like, he's going to turn us in and it's going to be even worse. Like, let's just go back. So she told them like, oh, we're okay. We were just coming to get something, but never mind. They go back, turn off all the gas, clear the air out. And the guy comes home at the end of the night. Few weeks go by and the servant tells my mom, I'm going to tell them you went to the bathroom out on the hillside. Go, just run away. Wow. Try to get home. And so my mom did that. It was like nighttime. They said she was going to the bathroom. My mom sees a truck driver driving through. And she's like, I'm going like towards this area, I think, you know, she has like an idea of where it is. And it's basically like one road, you know, it's like down that way. And so the guy knows where she's from, but he's terrified because the guy's so powerful. Yeah. And so my mom's like hiding. He's like, just stay quiet, shut up. And he drives her all the way back. She finds her way home. And her dad's reaction is like, what the fuck? Now I got to explain to this guy. Like, he was disappointed.
Wow.
And so
is this what The Handmaid's Tale was based on?
Kind of.
Like, I gave you away already.
Yeah.
I was thinking Handmaid's Tale.
You know, that was actually based off the women in Iran. That's the inspiration
really?
For it. Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Especially after like, that switch with like the Shah.
So she comes back. Your dad's like, you again.
Her dad is like, what the fuck?
Did I say your dad? I meant her dad.
Yeah. And
I hope you inherited all these great qualities.
I know. I am afraid to be a parent at this point. So her dad has a side family. He falls in love with another woman. They have a few kids. And they kind of like move into the house. And my mom and all her 8 siblings and her mom like got to go. They're like worked a little bit as like servants or helpers for basically the family that lives in their house now. And then her older brother was like the genius, hardworking, like determined one. First one to go to school, made all of the siblings go to school, got scholarships, would work jobs to pay rent with the scholarship money and then have a job to like help. And everyone kind of would like help him. He was the dad essentially. And so they moved to a village outside of the mining town where it was like old World War II base and a lot of military were still there. And some lady told my mom, my uncle said she was cursed with being very pretty and poor, which is like the worst combination. And she never wanted.
We're the opposite.
We're like, just must be nice. Yeah, so it was, she never likes wearing makeup. Like, she still, like, to this day is like, do not.
Wow.
Even when she divorced my dad, I would, like, set her up. I'm like, your harmony. I'm like, let's find a new partner. She doesn't like romantic stuff. And it's like her trauma's, it's deep.
Your poor mom.
And so they moved to a new village. And, like, one lady tells my mom, like, you can make a lot of money if she works in the brothel with soldiers. And her brother's like, no, we're not doing that. We're going to school. We'll find another way to get money. But her mom was like, sure. You know, like they don't think about it. It's just you're an extra hand that was born.
You're just a utilitarian.
Yes.
There's no like family necessarily.
And so they work their way up and they start going to like university or working for these rich, you know, like they moved to Rabat and Fez, I think, for a little bit, and then Casablanca. And they're like living in the city in one apartment and like the uncle's the leader and they find jobs and they're working as like maids and things and just sort of developing a little bit of a life. And everywhere they went, it was rough. You know, they're starting anew and their mom is like essentially useless. She can like knit some rugs, make some food. My mom said she would hang out at like the market until after they closed. So like the food that was like essentially garbage they would get.
Right.
Like they couldn't even afford flour for bread. They had to make the flour from grain. And so then one day they're older. They're like in their, I'm going to say like 20s. And her brother is working jobs. He's traveled even for work and through scholarship work programs. And he's coming home from work and he sees this white couple. It's like white guy and white woman. And they're at a bus station that's closing. It's like a rainy night. And they're like, said they're trying to get to Algeria. And he's like, dude, you're going to like, this is dangerous to be here this late. Like, and the bus isn't coming. Like, come stay with us for a little bit, and then we'll, you know, take care of you. My mom's like, we don't even have much to give. What are we taking people in for? Like, it's like not 12 of us in a
They're like
apartment.
Tourists.
Yeah, they're tourists. And so then my mom became friends with both of them. And you know, she would always keep a book, and like they would kind of like talk about the world in a little bit. My mom asked, why did you come to Morocco? You know, and the white woman was like, I'm traveling the world, and I'm looking for like danger and adventure and finding myself. And I was in Spain or Italy, and someone said, see across the water there, across the Gibraltar Strait, there's a land over there where they'll cut your hand off for stealing. She's like, I want to go there. And so she goes to this place with this guy, and they're just like hippies. They're like shrooms, stoned out of their minds, but like hanging out, and they're so cool. And
imagine going looking for danger.
Yeah, right.
And
you find this family that doesn't even know there's a world outside of the danger. And so they go to they finally like get set up, and they move on to Algeria, and they left their info, and my mom kept in touch with the woman. They like became really good friends. And the guy left his info, and like my mom would keep a book, like, can you just write, like, you know, before Instagram or any of that stuff. And they travel, they kind of like forgotten, they kept in touch a little bit. The woman was adopted by these wealthy people in the Bay Area, and her parents called the house and were like, thank you so much, like, for taking care of our daughter. We were so worried about her. She's like, in a rebellious
She's a fucking
phase.
idiot, and we're so happy that you were there.
Yeah. And if any of your family wants to be sponsored, we would love to sponsor you. And they were all terrified. They're like, they're going to kill us. This is Get Out. You know, like that's as far as they knew, they're like, fuck this.
Yeah.
But my mom's life was so miserable that she had like actually attempted to take her own life like multiple times. And she was like, it cannot be worse than this. She was the only one to be like, I'm out of here. I don't know what's out there, but like, it cannot be. Like, I don't care anymore. I don't want to be in this. There's got to be something better. So she went. And before she went, her dad tried to marry her to he promised her to a rich guy.
Dude.
Another hustle, another scam.
Another fight love.
And
This guy's played by Danny DeVito.
Yeah, for sure. So then he comes to tell her like, hey, you know, you got to marry this guy. And my mom was like, I don't want to do that. I want to go do this. And he goes, well, I talked to your brother, who's not here. He's off at work, but he said you should do this. And she believed him. And he was like their North Star, the brother. So she went and was going. He comes back, finds out it's this whole dramatic, like he kidnaps. My mom my uncle breaks my mom out of this wedding.
Wow.
Brings her back, and they're hiding her from my grandpa. He comes livid. He's like beating up all the siblings. They take her to one of her brother's apartments in Casablanca. She's like hiding in the closet, and he's like, where is she? And he's beating them, and they won't tell her. And so she escapes that. And she gets to America. And
wild that this is one of 9 stories of these siblings.
I mean, crazy.
Like, I want to hear all the rest of them.
They all had very different lives because of just where they were in the mix. You know, like my uncle Sharadi, who my mom's like closest brother now, he was like our dad. He was the one he lived with us because he was kind of figuring himself out. And
is he the one that broke her out?
He helped. Okay. He helped, yeah. And he's just been like, he's the coolest guy. But he grew up where like his dad and him were like this. And so his experience with he's like, I know like he wasn't a great guy, but like to me, because they looked alike, I think, that it was just like.
He's a man, so he's going to be better treated.
And his dad would just always be like, I got us a horse, you know, this is your horse. And like kind of like he lived like a wild life. Yeah, kindred. And so he was that for us. So for whatever reason, it's never black and white. And like the experience he had with his dad allowed him to give me this experience with a father figure that my dad really wasn't interested in providing us. And so like he would take us camping, and we'd go like, he taught us how to ride bikes and shoot bows and arrows, and like he would just throw us into life, and like gave us confidence that we wouldn't have had otherwise. But so my mom lands in Hayward, California, and barely knows English, starts getting jobs as a nanny and waitress, bartender, did all these things, but she worked as a nanny for Bob Hope's daughter, which was crazy.
Wow.
And she always wanted to fly airplanes. Women couldn't fly airplanes in Morocco. So she learned English and then got lessons in...
he has an airport down here. The Bob Hope Airport.
That's right.
That's funny. What is it? Laguna?
Yes. Laguna. Orange County, yeah.
Orange County?
Sorry. Bob Hope. Well, he's killing it. Was killing it. R.I.P. And
Still is.
It still is.
Now he's flying solo
The
up there.
home estate, yeah.
I feel like your mom's so lucky she's like from one of the like sexy Middle Eastern countries.
Sure.
Like white people go to Morocco, like Syria, not a sexy Middle Eastern country.
Even Libya, you scoot over a couple countries, and it's like, where's that?
No one wants that. Egypt, sexy Middle Eastern country.
It's true. We
It's
do.
funny. Yeah, there's an allure to it. But my mom hates Morocco. Like she doesn't even want to go back.
Oh,
it's
I
just
wouldn't
too
either.
much. Yeah. But
What are you doing over here?
There was sagging. The microphone.
you're sagging over
I'm
here.
sagging. I'm getting so old.
So my mom would like go to the hangar and learn to fly. After she learned English, she would go take flight lessons. And
Oh my God.
yeah, she met my dad
Do
through
you ever
like
joke about this when you talk about your mom flying?
it's kind of like a joke.
Okay,
Yeah,
I feel like
used
it
to.
sounds familiar that your mom
Back
flew.
when I was new, I would have a joke about
Okay.
like my mom. Well, the first thing she did when she came here was become a pilot. But then after 9/11, she's
Yeah.
like, maybe don't tell that story
Yeah,
so
yeah,
much.
yeah.
But I don't really do that.
Have you told this story on a lot of podcasts, or
No.
is this an exclusive?
Oh
This
my
is-
God.
This is a scoop.
We
You got the
scooped-
scoop.
We scooped you all.
So my mom became very close with the woman, and then she asked the woman, "Do you remember the guy? Like the guy hippie that she was with?" She's like, "Dude, I was so fucking blown out of my mind. Like I didn't even remember a guy being there."
Wow.
And my mom looked through her book, and the guy was like, "Hit me up if you're ever in Canada." The guy was James Cameron.
What?
What?
Yeah.
Excuse me, what?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
The James Cameron. And my mom reached out to him because
He
my
wrote
mom's like,
Avatar while he was in Morocco.
yeah, truly.
My
like,
brain
this
is broken now.
Yeah.
I like
And she
podcast.
reached
Your
out.
mom is Forrest Gump of
She
the Middle
is.
East.
She truly
Your mom
is.
is. She's like, and then I met President Nixon.
Well, no, she said she would go to the hangar and she was very scared. She was terrified of everything. And she would walk like down this bike path. She didn't have a car. She would walk to the, take the bus. She's still a bus person through and through. Take the bike path down to the hangar. And these guys, like 90 guys wearing all black, big, jogging towards her. And she was like, oh my God, like they're going to attack me. Like, what is this? She doesn't know. And she's like, they were all so polite. They go, good morning, ma'am. And they just keep running. And it was the Super Bowl champion Oakland Raiders,
Oh
just
my
like on their
God.
like practice
Their morning run.
morning run. But yeah, she truly like crossed paths with all these people. She had dinners with Huey Newton, leader of the Black Panthers.
Black Panther Party.
Yeah, she like met all these people, and
If you write this, it's gonna be like in the style of Forrest Gump,
For
where it
sure.
just like spans several
we
decades.
didn't think about that. It was more about the story that my brother and I. He's a screenwriter and he works in film and production.
Cool.
We're trying to get the screenwriting side going here, but we've been writing something in the vein of like a girl escaping all this trauma, but like looking up to the sky and always wanting to fly to kind of get away
that.
from
So
it.
beautiful.
Yeah. But I think I would want it to be in like the language.
Yeah.
So we would need, some outside help because we didn't grow up learning it.
Isn't that so hard? I see all these jobs that are like looking for a writer must write in Arabic, and I'm like, well, you're gonna have to hire my mom to do this.
Yeah.
Like our generation can't write in
don't.
Arabic.
Unless
At
are
more
both
than a
your-
second grade
are
level.
both your parents from the same place?
Yeah.
And you still don't?
This funny thing happened called September 11th, and I decided I didn't want to be Arab, so I wouldn't learn the language. And I think that's a lot of people. It was either their parents didn't want them to learn, so they wouldn't have the accent, or it was like me, where it was like this refusal to be.
And were they hurt by that? That you didn't
very
want
hurt.
to?
And they always told me, they were like, "You're gonna regret that one day." And I was like, "No, I know better than you," and now I regret it.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's tough.
It's devastating.
Are they over it now, or?
I was trying to learn a little Arabic, and I could see a little spark in their eye
Yeah.
when I was like, "Sabah al khair."
Yeah.
But then the way they teach you on this app that I was using, you say "Sabah al khair, ya Istaz," which means like "Good morning, sir."
Just
Totally.
as a teacher.
It's like Muzzy, like the old French videos,
Oh, I
like you'd
loved
see in those
Muzzy.
commercials. Je suis la jeune fille. And I'm like, I am a little girl. But that's like all I knew.
Did you ever watch that? Like the plot of it is that he like eats electronics.
Oh, really?
So he'd be like eating street meters. It's a very strange video. You should all watch Muzzy.
Well, I never, yeah.
Shout out
Did
Muzzy.
you buy it?
No, we watched it in French class.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, no, I always
Real
wanted Mozzie.
trippy.
I always wanted Mozzie. I'm like good. It's so funny. This is how much of an underachiever I am. I'm good with languages. but I don't know any. If that makes sense.
No,
Like I pick it up very quickly.
Yeah.
When we travel,
You
like
drop it as quickly as you
my
picked it
wife,
up.
yeah, exactly. If I'm in it, I'm in it. But yeah, when I'm like, I wish I had like a Moroccan tutor, but I would have to talk every day.
And it's Arabic. There,
So-
It's a
strong
specific dialect of
Yeah.
completely different dialect, completely different vocabulary.
Yeah,
It's-
so they start with modern standard Arabic. Is that what it is? Modern
yeah,
standard?
Fusha.
Yeah. And then they have developed like through just the amalgamation of like cultures that have influenced that region, their own kind of what's the word I'm thinking of? Like vernacular. Like they have like entire words that you just wouldn't hear of. But so it's funny. My Moroccan cousin explained to me, like, we know theirs, they don't know ours. It's like the more west you go, the more like we have consumed and understand. But like you go one notch east, like you go to Tunisia, they don't know. You go like east a little
Oh
more.
yeah, my mom was like, I
Algeria.
don't understand any Moroccans.
Yeah.
She
They've fought now to like make it an actually like officially recognized language called Darija, but it's a lot of the same words.
When I watch Rami, the Arabic doesn't sound like familiar to me, but then I watched Mo and I was like, oh, like I know this because it's like the Levantine. It's just so interesting how it's so.
Yeah.
country specific.
So I don't want to like rehash stuff that's probably been discussed on the podcast, but so your parents are from Syria, both of them? And then your parents are from
Egypt,
both of them?
Yeah.
Okay. And they met there or here?
There.
My parents met over there and then they got married here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they were engaged for like 2 years and did 2 years of long distance, just writing each other letters. And then my mom came over here in like 73 and then they got married.
That's very romantic.
Yeah, or 70 or 73, I can't remember.
So because I feel like with my mom's culture, like marriage is very much more of like a
Transactional?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a contract between families
Yeah.
more than like these two people love each
100%,
other.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like your parents do feel the love or is it very much like
Yeah, I think so for sure. I think it was also like at that time it was like we know you're gonna get married. That's an inevitability. So let's find like a good. We're also like Coptics, so we're like the Christian minority. So it's like as long as this person is like a good Christian with a good family, you know. So it's just sort of like now it's a matter of like picking the.
yeah, you check our boxes and then enjoy all the love you can find in that selection.
Yeah.
But then they like last, like I feel like the American, like the divorce rate here is 50%. Most of the people we've had on this show who had kind of arranged marriages, parents are still together.
Yeah, yeah. There's like a respect for the sacredness of it all.
Is that better? I don't know, but
Or you at least like see perhaps there is like a transactional component, and so you already start from the place of like, hey, we're in this, let's figure out how to make it work. So you already start from a place of like, we're problem solving and building this life, as opposed to like everything's so great it can only go down from here and deteriorate. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, in my mom's experience, just from how I don't want to put her on Front Street completely, but like, you know, she talks about like with a lot of people that, because once she got here, her whole time is spent like fighting to help everyone else get here. And my Uncle Shred's like, she should have left us, dude. We've caused nothing but problems. There's this sort of like dynamic where when they come, they go from the village where they're like thankful for everything and like just kind of like more respectful, I guess, because they don't have much, to like now they're in this place of like opulence and they're very needy and they have a standard. And like my mom has this like notion that like a lot of the Moroccans that she helped get here, they love going back to Morocco because they love being the
the highfalutin,
the hot shit. And my mom hates that. And it's like, you were that.
Yeah.
Don't forget where you came from.
Yeah.
You should be helping people. But she's like, a lot of people would rather keep them there and go like, it's just so hard.
Yeah.
But, you know,
A lot
you
of
got your
comedians
thing.
do that too, where they're just, you know,
Sure.
they get to the top and they pull the ladder up and they're like, I'm
Profound.
sorry, it's just like really, really.
Dude.
There is like and I'm just saying, like, I think that's a human instinct, like, or not that it's natural, but like, there are two types of people. There are people who are like, I was given so much, I want to help. And then there are types of people who stay in that scarcity mindset. And they're like, no, I can't.
No one helped me, even
Yeah.
though people did help you.
Right. And you forget.
Yeah.
I just have to rewind a little bit.
Sure.
James Cameron.
God, isn't that wild? I told someone that whole story. I haven't told that whole story to like a lot of people, But my
We
friend
told it to at least 2 people on this podcast.
to literal twos of people.
Twos of people. They're both here.
I told my friend in New York, and I get to that whole boom moment of James Cameron. He's like barely knows who James.
Oh, that's so.
So he was like, I don't care about that shit. What about everything else? I was like, yeah. I guess.
But like, did they stay in touch?
Lynn's like, can I get his email?
Yeah.
Jim Cameron, you mean?
Yeah, old Jimmy. So my mom, bless her heart, she's like the one that's like, oh, James, my son is an actor. I'm like,
Stop.
Mom.
Did she contact James Cameron about you?
She sent
Yes,
him some
Mom,
stuff.
slay.
He's never gotten back to her.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
still.
He's busy. He's at the bottom of the
It's
ocean.
like, hey, remember when I saved your ass?
Truly.
You would not have made Titanic. You would have been Titanic.
Yeah, truly. Yeah, no, never heard from James. But the other woman who has since passed away was like it was like my mom's first friend and was living like the opposite life. Like, talk about an odd couple. This woman was adopted into wealth, was angry at the world,
Yeah.
and had everything she ever needed.
Eat the rich. Eat my dad.
Yeah, truly. And then my mom is just like afraid. And
I feel like your mom was, you know how like little rich girls love reading orphan stories?
Yes.
I feel like your mom
Yeah.
was her like a little princess.
Totally. Yeah. And then my mom moved to San Francisco and she was working at a jazzercise studio, checking people in, and then she could work out for like free or whatever. She'd just help. She's still this woman in the community that like has jobs, but like is really just like sees people, wants to know their story, and like helps them. Like
The original
she
gig
lives
economy.
in the richest town in like the world. She lives in a tiny studio apartment, and everyone who works at every restaurant like loves her because they're like, she's the only one that comes in and like talks to us like we're people.
Yeah.
And like tries to help them.
Right.
Be like, what school are you trying to get in? What jobs do you want to do outside of this? Like, I have a good recommendation for a play. Like, she just
love
likes
that.
putting things together for
I
people.
mean, if she can find community in Marin,
Truly.
she can do anything.
I agree. My brother and I hate going
Yeah.
there to visit her, but it's like, I wish she lived anywhere else, but she's like, I feel safe here. I can walk around
Yeah.
late at night
It's
and like
so
don't have to
beautiful.
worry about
Yeah.
like anyone robbing me or
Yeah. She deserves it. She
that's
deserves.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
She
You've
deserves
You've been
to
through
live.
enough. This is the finish line. Like
Yeah.
you're living it. She loves the whole community. Like people that my brother and I are like, if they could vote for someone, they would want you out of the country type of person. She's like, well, who cares? Let people. She's like just truly the most
Wow.
open to like whatever, and yeah, she's a very inspiring person. And
So she went from Hayward to San Francisco and then to Marin.
yeah.
And then did you grow up in Marin?
I grew up in
You said
Marin,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
She met my dad in San Francisco. Oh, yeah, the woman at the jazzercise, one of the women at the class was my dad's sister, and she set them up.
Wow.
And my mom's like, he's kind of a loser. He was like stone living in the in-law unit. And they came from like relative, like upper middle class Italian family in San Francisco. And he kind of was. Like my dad was a very complicated guy, but he had his demons and just kind of never had to grow up. And my mom was this kind of, in her mindset, she was that subservient like Muslim wife where it's like, if I just do my thing, then hopefully he's fulfilling his end of the bargain. And then he wouldn't. And then it just became like enabling. And then years of that led to like a big, kind of lost everything. I lost our house in Marin and like a lot of, he kind of resorted to some tactics to preserve his name where he'd like blame us for like bleeding him dry, but we never got anything. And so it was kind of ugly towards the end, but she through it all, like always had his back and always would help him, like helped him find help because he couldn't take care of himself.
Wow.
Because he was just kind of spoiled, I think, growing up, and then spoiled by her.
Yeah.
And so she would help him find low-income housing and, help set him up with everything. To the point where I'm like, you need to stop talking to this guy. Like, this guy would leave you hanging in a heartbeat.
Right.
But she's like, but he's the father of my kids. Like, it's that understanding where,
Wow.
like, that's what makes those marriages so successful. Where, like, the responsibility and you don't want to live any other way.
Which is phenomenal because she did not have that modeled for her in any way.
Yeah, I know. I always asked her, like, why are you good? And she said there'd be people along the way. And they would just, like, kind of like, I want to be that. And I think some people just have it, because, like, she has very low tolerance for people who complain about how hard life is when it's not hard.
I bet.
You know, so it's like, she's like, I was fucking given away as a slave, you know, like I'm chilling. Like
your mom would hate this podcast.
Yeah, truly, the unpacking of trauma. She likes the encouragement. She's always sending like Oprah thing. You know?
Some people have called our podcast supportive, so maybe she will like it.
No, I'm kidding. I think we tried to slant more positive. Yeah.
I'm an optimist. And I think it's an easier way to live for me. There's never going to be a shortage of things to be disappointed about or upset about. And I slip into it. I mean, I've had a rough week and a half. Rough, it's all relative. But just like as in our career field, it's like your mind needs to be in such a strong place. And when it's not, like just the worst comes out of you, and I like hate it.
It's so true.
Yeah.
It's like the most you can do for yourself, it seems at this point, to be successful is to like take care of yourself mentally and physically so that you have the ability to be resilient and to keep your priorities in order so that not every slip or failure feels like the biggest gut punch or the biggest referendum on your worth coming up to show that you ain't shit. You know, like
I do think first gen, we also are a little bit better at it. Sometimes I hear these white comics and they're like complaining so much about comedy. And I'm like, do you know how lucky we are that we get to do this?
Dude.
Like, if like just a few things were different, I could be living in Syria right now under an oppressive government, like fearing for my life.
Yeah.
And like, okay, I have to sit for 2 hours at an open mic and not get up. Like things could be worse.
Totally.
An air-conditioned open mic.
Which is kind of like being sold into slavery.
It's really the same.
Right.
Same thing.
Yeah, my mom's very much like a life is good, everything happens for a reason type of thing. But it's a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
Really,
I'm like, is this happening for a reason?
Yeah.
Because it feels pretty random, and like we're all just. But I don't know. The scales tip back and forth. It's hard to maintain the balance, but it's what we strive for. But it's almost impossible to maintain it all.
How did your dad like sell himself to your mom if she was like, "This is a loser"? Did he just keep showing up?
I've come to the realization that my mom has like a bit of a savior complex. And so she really likes to be there for people that are down and out. And that's like her, honestly, in my mind, that's like her dream date. It's like a guy that's getting evicted and he needs to like get his stuff out that day. And she's like, okay, I'll go. Because there's a guy she's seeing now that's kind of like this same situation. I'm like, God, man. I'm like, Dad set the bar pretty low, but this guy is like unbearable. But you know, she's had these talks where she's like, he helps me. He makes me happy. Like, please just understand, you know? And I'm like, okay. I'm the more understanding.
I think you need to fuck up a little more so that she comes to your rescue.
I know, like,
ditches
shit,
this guy. She feels useful and happy. Bada bing, bada boom.
I was gonna say, is she overwhelming with the like trying to fix your problems?
No, she lets us go. She kind of lets us figure it out, and she wants us to. She doesn't really get what I do.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure you guys both understand.
Yeah, they like kind of do.
Kind of, but they don't care to know it all. Like, they're not like, tell me more about Nate Bargatze. You know, like, it's just like she lives in her world and she doesn't necessarily care about my world, but she wants me happy and flourishing in it. And she'll help where she thinks she can, but it's never that helpful. You know, it's like the mom being like, I know a guy who works in radio in Tahoe. And I'm like, okay. She's like,
just
email
that
him.
and Jim Cameron, and those are her only two connections.
I'm like, Mom, we got to focus on Jim.
Yeah. Priorities. That's wild.
So my dad was just like a guy that like needed a hand. He's like, I got to do this. And my parents need me to go clear out a storage unit. And my mom was like, I'll help you, you know? And then it just kind of like, she never thought she'd marry him. And then he proposed and she said no. And he called and was like, is there someone else? And she was like, I just like need to help my family so much right now and like help them get here that I can't imagine starting another family. And he was like, I'll help. I want to help with all of that. And that like won her heart over.
Wow.
Did he help?
I think he did.
Okay.
I think he did. But you know, it's just like, again, it's never black and white. And if you upset him or like, you know, did anything that he didn't want, it was very much like it could get ugly. and that was just kind of just a part of who he was or how he grew up. So he had a switch he could flip that was pretty nasty, but you know, for the most part, he was a really good guy and fun and charming, but he had his flaws and his demons, and you know, she never really like blamed him. Like I hated him for years, but my mom was always like, we all come from we're all products of our environment. And he didn't have, his parents were old when they had him, and they had a lot of stuff, and they're like the second generation to be like coming into stuff in San Francisco. So they're starting to lose an idea of like, if you're not passing on how we got here and what the message is and what our core principles are, you lose it. You know, they say like a generation crawls so the next one can walk, so the next can run, so the next can fly, so the next can crash. Yeah, totally. My Moroccan cousins would do, it's funny because like people get mad when we do like accents of foreigners because it's like racist. But like I would want to hear my impression, like someone do an impression of me in any country.
doing it well.
Yeah, like if I was in China, I'd be like, how do I speak Chinese? Like do my fucked up Chinese. And I asked my cousins who were visiting from Morocco, I'm like, what do we sound like? Like, what's our impression? And they would all go, we were like maybe 13. So we were like prime, like Marin, like entitled, spoiled, douchey kids. And their impression of me and my brother was, Mom. Cut us to the bone.
That's
like,
it,
damn,
just Mom.
that was it.
Oh
Mom. Everything we needed. Mom.
Oh my God, just that in one word.
Yeah, because anything you needed was
encapsulation.
Mom, can I go to Jake's tonight? Mom, when's dinner?
That's amazing. It's the like helplessness and the entitlement.
Yeah. Yeah, truly. But like somehow in a toughy, like protective bro voice. I will protect you once my mom gives me the Wi-Fi password.
That's amazing. That's so funny.
Yeah. And so yeah, they got married and they moved to Marin and would like kind of flip houses. So like they were in San Francisco, they moved to Novato, got a fixer-upper, and that kind of became my mom's passion. She would like, my dad would go to work and my mom would just find Moroccans. Everything we had in our household was Moroccans would do it. Like I always wanted an American babysitter because like it'd be an older kid at my school that I'd be friends with. I didn't know older kids. And I'd go to my friends' houses and be like some cool kid in like 8th grade and we're like 5th graders.
Yeah.
And
you're like, now I got a Moroccan baby.
we had Khadijah, you know, and she didn't speak any English, but my mom would be like, fix snacks for them.
Yeah.
And just
I bet
make
Khadijah made the best snacks, though.
Khadijah rocked.
Yeah, she can't name all the Ninja Turtles, but she can make the best Bubba
Totally.
news you've
Sucks
ever
at
had in your life.
dodgeball, but man, yeah, she's a chill hand. And then one day, like a neighbor of ours, or like a family friend, they like needed help around the house. The mom had like an injury and she couldn't take care of the kid. And so we like gave them Khadijah. So like Khadijah like worked for them and like got paid well. Obviously, it's not it's not Morocco.
Yeah, so
But-
like you can take her.
Yeah, totally. But I remember my brother were like, "Wait, Khadijah's here now?" Like we'd go over to our friend's house and be like, "Khadijah, like why aren't you home?" Like you guys know Khadijah? It was a really funny thing. And like our friends would come over. They're all like white kids, and some days they'd come over and it'd just be like 6 Moroccan women mopping the floor and like helping like cook.
Yeah.
And they'd be like, "Who is that?" And my brother would be like, "I have no idea who that is." But it was just my mom's way of being like, I'll give you a little bit of money. Come by.
And come,
you know?
we can create this community, and you can be useful and pay your way.
Yeah,
and,
it was her way of like, look, you just moved here. There's probably not much you can do in the workforce. If I think of something, I'll hit you guys up and you guys come. If you can't do it, you don't have to do it.
Wow.
So it'd be like a lot of that, like a lot of just non-English speaking Moroccan women. They like kiss us all, and we were so embarrassed. Our white friends were like so cool. And we're like, Moroccans are like eating with our hand. They speak so loud. My mom would be on the phone like, and they'd be like, dude, is your mom like in a fight? I'm like, no, she's just talking to her sister.
Yes.
You know, like they just talk very like.
My mom is pretty soft spoken, but I have an aunt that is so loud
Yeah.
that like you have to like hold the phone.
It's almost combative. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there were times where I was like, oh my gosh, they're in a fight. And then they just start laughing. And you're like, wait, what happened?
Yeah. And they're like frowning. And, like my brother used to tell my mom to smile.
Oh,
And
classic
she's
man.
like, sorry, baby. It's like, okay, Jesus. You know, she's like, I never had anything to smile about. Like,
That's
let me,
amazing.
this is my face. My brother wanted her to be whiter. And so like one day he was over at our friend's house who were like Irish, Catholic, like American. And it was Christmas time. And my mom came to pick him up. She's like, come on, let's go home. And he's like, just come out of the car. They want to say hi. And she's like, what? Okay. So she like gets out of the car, goes in. They didn't want to say hi. They weren't even in the room, but he's like showing them the Christmas decor. He's like, Mom, get inspired. This is like, and she's like, fuck this shit. Like this stupid holiday. Gonna buy all this shit just to throw it in a box in like 2 weeks.
So like, want to flip our rooms, maybe make it a little more Christmassy?
Did your family not do Christmas at all?
We did. We did all. My mom was at like a turning point where it was like, she felt like Islam kind of passes through the father anyway.
You know, that's how my mom always feels. She's like, I'm kind of okay with all the, she's very religious,
Yeah.
but she'll take any of them.
Yeah. My mom's like spiritual. She's like, we're all praying to the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, my godfather was like one of her best friends. He was a journalist, and he was a British guy who's Jewish. So I was like Jewish, Muslim, Christian, like they're very like progressive how they were. And they felt like the Islam thing was like very selective in her village. You know, she's like, people drank like back in the day in my village, like her dad would go out and party and drink. They had like the tent in the village where like the men would go, and then like the risque ladies, you know, the women who were seen as like kind of like the, you know, party girls, city girls.
It's still like that. I went to Morocco, and if you're like a woman drinking, everyone's looking at you.
Yeah, the bars, it's funny. Like I was talking to a guy in Morocco, and he was like, these bars are like for you guys. Like my wife's white. Like they're not looking at her and judging her because they know we come from a different place.
Yeah.
But if it's someone they know,
they're like, you should know better. You were raised in our judgmental
I'm telling
culture.
your family. Yeah, exactly. My mom drinks wine, and it's like she's treated like a heroin addict, where it's like she's good, but like she drinks. You know, it's that thing of like, what do we do? You can never trust her because she's always, you know, she always has a glass of wine. And I was like, go to hell! I work too hard to come to this country.
Yeah. I was a slave. Get off my dick.
Yeah, truly. And like, you guys are all here because I helped.
Yeah.
None of you wanted to go.
Also, that proximity to wine country, like, come on,
Yeah,
let a woman live.
One in Napa Valley.
So it sounds like you had actually a lot of Moroccan culture around you by virtue of not just your mom, but like the people that she brought over. The
Absolutely.
Uncles,
My Uncle Sharadi was the coolest. Sorry,
Oh
what's
yeah,
the question?
no.
Do you make a mean tagine?
Well, so guys don't cook.
Oh, of course.
Yeah,
so
my mom.
don't bother learning.
Yeah, my mom, she always thought that was kind of like weird.
Guys don't cook. I couldn't. I wasn't allowed to.
Yeah. Like if you were in the kitchen, yeah,
Can you teach me how to tagine?
Mom, how'd the tagine get so tender? No, like if you went in the kitchen, it was almost like, why are you here?
Wow.
Yeah, like learning. I mean, I guess if I was really passionate about it, maybe she would have like had one-on-one like sessions with me. But there's like a famous chef in like, he's like pretty renowned. I can't remember his name. He's done like Top Chef and all these things. He's a Moroccan guy in San Francisco.
Is it Michael Mina?
No, it's
No, I think actually Michael Mina's Egyptian. Never mind.
Murad Lalou.
Oh, okay.
And
Cool name.
he started a couple restaurants, but he started working in the kitchen with like a Moroccan. The Moroccans were a community in San Francisco, so like we would hang out with them as like kids. My uncle would babysit us and go to a cafe where Moroccans worked. Like it was like you were a little more insulated. And he worked in their world and worked in restaurants and learned, but he never gave credit to the chef that he worked for, which always kind of rubbed my mom the wrong way. And then he blew up. I'm really firing shots here. But my mom was like, he said an article like, oh, I learned like growing up in the kitchen, like with my mom. And my mom was like, that doesn't happen. Like boys do not go in the kitchen.
You're just kind of inventing your own folklore,
Yeah.
your apocryphal story.
Yeah. So cooking never really got passed down. But it was always like the best Moroccan food would be like the Moroccan women, like my mom and her sisters, and you know, they would cook feasts in like these apartments in San Francisco. And then my mom would come with like 40 pounds of like leftovers in like pencil boxes, not like they didn't know the difference between Tupperware.
Oh my
and
God.
like so it's just like you needed some plastic
Yeah, a
leaching
trapper
in.
keeper.
And they just scotch tape it because they realize it's leaking.
You're 100% microplastics, aren't
Oh,
you?
dude, I'm fueled.
So of these like cultural upbringing, these moments, like what customs do you still carry on, or what's your favorite of them that you were raised with?
Yeah, that's a tough one. You know, it wasn't really a big, I guess
It's okay to say
we're
food
very
too.
we're very like we're holistic. We're kind of hippies without being hippies. Like my mom was very anti like Tylenol.
Oh, my mom too. She won't even take it.
Yeah, like if
Yeah.
we would have to be on our deathbed if we wanted
Wow.
Tylenol. Yeah.
Were
And-
your parents not like this? at
No,
all?
my parents are very much. My dad was
Oh,
a
your dad's a
doctor. So
doctor.
my
Oh
dad
yeah,
was
big
like,
pharma for the win.
Yeah.
Absolutely no. My dad was more like you don't need to go to the doctor unless you were like on your deathbed. He's
Sure.
like he was more just like you're fine. Here's some antibiotics.
Yeah. Yeah. We like grew up in a culture in a time when and like these rich kids whose parents would if they got C's, their parents would take them to therapy and a specialist and then they get Adderall subscriptions and then they brag at school about how like they took Adderall and like got all their homework done so
Right.
quick. And my brother and I would be like, Mom, we have a learning disability. And she's like, shut up. Like we could not take anything. And I am still that way. Like my head will be killing me and my friends will be like, just take this Tylenol and it'll go away. And I'm like, no.
Wow.
My body's like working through something.
My body's a temple.
Yeah, truly.
Gwyneth said one Advil is like swallowing a grenade.
Yeah, Gwyneth
Gwyneth and
got
our
it right.
moms. I'd listen to that podcast.
Yeah.
Gwyneth
Spoonful
plus
of
our
honey
moms.
in the morning. That's a big one. Spoonful of honey.
But it has to be local, right?
Local.
My parents are very specific.
Oh, and maybe,
It
yeah.
has to be from where you're from to work.
Ooh, I didn't know that one.
Yeah.
But that was like good luck. Or like before a test, my mom would take a spoonful of honey.
Aw.
Yeah. in
And the
morning.
teas. My parents are there's like a tea for everything.
Nature's
tea for your
Adderall is
stomach.
the spoonful of honey.
Yeah.
The tea. What kind of tea would you?
Well, there's like chamomile for sleep in your stomach, and then like green tea is like good for like your metabolism. And
Oh,
like there's just like
caffeine,
different,
yeah.
yeah.
We would
Ginger
do
digestion.
mint. That's all Americans do.
Oh,
Moroccan mint
mint.
tea is truly the first time I had it. I was like, this is heaven. This is
It's
amazing.
but if you watch it get made, it's like diabetes in a cup.
right.
The amount of sugar
Yeah.
they put in there just like melt. It's like, how is this not syrup by
Yeah,
now?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so much sugar, but man, the ritual of it all.
Yes, the pouring from very high
Very
and
high.
the aroma and
And you cannot recreate it in America.
can't, no.
I've tried. You cannot.
Come to you got to come to like my grandma's. They like really like they get all the leaves and they put it together and she does the cup to cup. That's like something that takes me back. It's like her cooling it off for me. And it's you just pour it back and forth and the air naturally cools it.
do you feel at home when you're at Phil's Coffee? Because they do that at Phil's as well.
Like, can you? Do they do that?
Stop.
Oh, dude, I'll cry. I might just cry and like reach out with both
Isn't
hands.
Phil's owned by a Palestinian guy? Or
Yes,
like
Arab at least, or Middle
okay.
Eastern.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a delicious like mint iced coffee
Yeah.
thing that I
Oh,
love.
I love that one.
Yeah.
But I like that you
Phil's.
can make it like just a touch sweet, just a touch.
Yeah, exactly.
In Morocco now, you can order it without the sugar. Not to ruin
Oh, I've
anyone's.
never-
They do ask the tourists because I think we're all like, this has a lot of calories.
Yeah,
Can
totally.
you-"
Yeah, we suck. We suck.
We ruin everything.
Yeah.
So we're gonna pivot to our last segment called Dig Deep. This is where we ask some deep questions. The first one is Cleopatra was portrayed by Liz Taylor in the 1963 film. If your life were a crossover of two TV shows or two films or a TV show and a film, what would it be? What would they be? And who would play you?
Ooh. Okay. Well, I do get a lot of like people say I got like kind of a Vince Vaughn energy to me
Yeah.
and look.
I see it.
But like
But he's old now.
But also you like less douchey, like less
Right.
like you know
like
what I mean?
like more of like a like a beta.
You're more wholesome.
I'm not an alpha as Vince.
If like Oscar Isaac and Vince Vaughn had a wholesome
Ooh,
child,
Oscar
you could
Isaac,
look
I'll
really,
take that.
Yeah.
Yeah, or Pedro Pascal.
Oh
Dude,
yeah.
give me some of that.
Yeah.
Actually, I
see
would
it.
say that because his energy is more like you.
Yeah.
Like he has more of a wholesome, just like.
A little more in touch with our emotions.
Yeah.
And what do you think?
Crossover.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I grew up with like the multicam sitcom.
Love a
So I
multicam.
kind of want to say like I love King of Queens.
Mm.
Like me and my wife and
King of
maybe like an
Marin.
in-law. Yeah. To me that's like the greatest sitcom ever. And I've seen all like I love sitcoms. Like I loved Full House, especially growing up like near San Francisco.
yeah.
TGIF.
Yeah, TGI Step by Step. Oh my God, my mom and I felt like we learned America together watching these shows. Home Improvement. And then comedy was also a part of that too. So it's like a special thing. Friends was big for like the kids of immigrants. We weren't really a Seinfeld household. Just because I felt like it was a little too like removed from like the Friends was dumbed down for us, if that makes sense, like new to American culture. So I would go King of Queens, and then maybe like
It could be a movie too. Doesn't have to be a TV show.
yeah. I want to say like if I were to do a crossover, like I'd want it to be like fun and inventive. So I'd want to say like a crossover of like King and Queens and like Severance or something crazy, where like just the monotony of like trying to make it in this world becomes this almost like a sci-fi experience in and of itself, you know. But that's not. I don't know if that's enough of a reason to combine those two.
I'll allow it.
Thank you.
We'll take it.
Thank you.
Imagine if we were like, no.
Yeah, be more respectful to the rules, Zach.
Dig deeper.
We're gonna pull this story. We're gonna pull this whole podcast. It'll never see the light of day.
So question number 2, Cleopatra had a storied legacy as a scholar and a politician. What would you like your legacy to be, and what would you like your tombstone to read?
You know, I don't know if I'd want like the career stuff on there. You know?
We said tombstone, not resume.
Yeah, exactly.
just put my resume on it. No.
You know, I'm very much here. Like, I'm a social creature, I think. Like, I don't really like to be alone for too long, which is probably something I need to work on. But for whatever reason, like, I have more fun with people. And
I think a lot of comedians feel that way.
Yeah, like I love knowing people. Like on a level where we don't have to do the appearances, like the polite, like, and how are things going with you?
Yeah.
You know, it's like we
just
don't
being
care.
all like shoot the shit.
Yeah, and that's why I gravitated to comedy so much. So I would like, I'm always here for the hang. I love a hang. I love a good hang. So something about being here for the hang, I think, he was here for the hang.
Ooh, I love that.
And storytelling. Like, I love just my Uncle Sharadi could tell such a story. And I think that really influenced my comedy in a lot of ways, early on especially. Like, my best bits were longer. And when I moved to LA, I had to get kind of like better at short jokes and catch your attention.
I love your long story.
3 minutes. Yeah. You got 3 minutes.
Yeah, totally. And I used to try to squeeze like a 5-minute story into a 3. Like, at the end, and everyone's watching like, what the fuck was that? Like, it doesn't work when you just speed it up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say, you know, storytelling, fan of stories, here for the hang.
Love it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we got your story on record for future generations.
I know, this was an amazing story. We have a little bit more time, so I wanted to actually backtrack a little bit. Like, in Marin, did you kind of always know growing up that you wanted to do something in entertainment and comedy, or like how did you find your way to this world?
Yeah, I didn't think about it. You know, I never really thought about like what I wanted to do, but we loved it. Like, we loved Comedy Central Presents. Like, we were raised by TV in a lot of ways. Yeah. And
same.
Yeah, like our parents, it was the babysitter. And so we just, and I think having a brother there, it's funny because we both ended up in entertainment. We had no like leads, you know, and we both like lived in different states, but we're like, whoa, look at us, like both kind of like.
Just, you watch TV and you're like, this is my friends. These are my friends.
I want to make this. Yeah.
Where does your brother live?
Well, he has lived for the past like 12 years in New Orleans, working in like film production there.
Wow.
And lighting and stuff like that, electrician and.
Cool.
And then he and his girlfriend, who's a cinematographer, moved to LA to take it up a notch a little bit. And everything was dry here. Like, there's really not that much work. So they have their apartment, which is actually in our building right next to us. Aww. But they're like
so
rarely here.
That's so sitcom-y of you.
Totally.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's Middle Eastern and sitcom-y.
Yeah, so we haven't really gotten to fully experience it, but when he's here, you know, we've made some sketches and stuff and used his skills and kind of both of our ambitions to create, you know, like something that we can hang our hat on and be like,
that's
dude,
so cool.
It's the most fulfilling stuff I've done in a long time is make the sketches with my brother. And we're hoping to have more coming out, so stay tuned there.
Yeah, where can people watch your sketches?
Well, we posted them on our YouTube channel of our old podcast, Hesby Street, and then my YouTube channel, Zack Chapaloni. It's still developing, kind of figuring out the angle there. I don't do a lot of crowd work, and so I feel like I'm very reluctant to like treat material. Yeah.
What do we do about that? Because I'm the same way. Do we just let it go?
Eventually, you gotta let go.
Yeah.
I think, and I'm trying to give myself this advice here is like you have to just trust that you can also write other funny things.
Yeah.
Right.
And develop that.
Yeah.
And hook and bait people with what you're working on now. And if they love it, they love it. If they don't, they don't. But we're very much fans of each other. And I think,
Did he come to Habibi's?
He was not in town.
We'll get him. We'll get
you
back and we'll get him
Yeah,
there.
that'd be great. He's seen me do the people that are really close to you, like they almost don't need to see you anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, they're like, I guess I'll do that. But it's like when you have a friend who's a comedian, like how often are you sitting and watching the whole show?
No, of course.
You know, you just go in, you're like, what's up? And hang out. But
which is why like first-year comedians have the most people at their shows because
Totally.
everyone's like, "What? You're doing this now? I gotta see it." And then once you've been doing it for a few years, everyone's like, I'll catch you whenever."
catch the next one.
Someone once told me that you should always book like one comedian who's like a year in on your show.
A bringer. Yeah. We had a lot of the same experience. I mean, we shared that experience of like we grew up very Catholic because my dad and my mom also, you know, I think she disappointed her family in a lot of ways on that front, but she didn't care because like she felt like Islam passed through. She felt like it's all the same thing. She knew she didn't want us to be the only like Muslim kids in this community. It's already hard enough. She's like, why? Like she's not even that much detached to her, you know, like she loves being an American. It's funny. She celebrates the day she came here as more than her birthday. And it's a day after her birthday. And that's her real birth. That's when her life started.
Wow.
And in her village, her birthday, she actually doesn't even know because it takes like weeks to go. And then they're like, when was she born?
People just know like the month.
Roughly. Yeah. So, you know, her birthday is like a very loose thing. And it kind of feels like she knows the exact date she came here and she knew she was never going back. And so, God, I'm sorry, I forget what the question even was.
Okay.
I feel like it's a good reminder too whenever you're like, oh, this country. It's like, okay, well, it offers us some freedoms that.
Yeah. I mean, it is funny. She does have a little bit of a change to her tune nowadays where she's like, God, you know, you start to realize like the place you escape, she says you think of things as only happening in third world countries.
Yeah.
And then you're here and you're like, damn, it's happening here.
Yeah.
Too. So like there are some elements.
Freeing. Quite a bit. All the things that you saw, all the possibility, you are now like, oh, did you see them pepper spray protesters?
Yes.
And do a lot of stuff that like one wouldn't think in a real democracy would happen.
Yes.
Curious.
Yeah. And it's funny. I joke about her like being kind of numb to tragedy because life has been so hard for them that like her small talk will like shake people to their core. Just because she'll be like, you know, then there was
when I was like a kid slave, I just
not even
dropped
about
that.
her. She'll just be like, there was once a village where the guy, or she'll call me and be like, did you hear about the brothers that were on vacation in Costa Rica? And I guess they were like using bleach to clean the glassware, and they seized and died in the hot tub. And I'm like, I'm always prepared. So I'm like, yeah, Mom, yep. That's sad, but I'm like, I'm not gonna let it affect me. And then she'll be like, God, I just couldn't imagine like sitting there and watching your brother as you're slowly dying. And I'm just like, and she's like, anyway, I'll let you go. Just making conversation. I love you. And I'm like, that's it. Like, no.
It wrecks your whole day.
Don't leave me. Don't leave me, Mom. Yeah. She talks very much in like tragedy. It's like that's like her casual
It's her
combo.
love language. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Sometimes I do have to stop my parents and I'm like, can we talk about something nice? Because it's always just like dying, who's dying, how the world's ending, all the suffering. And it's like, can we do...
Totally. Yeah. So, you know, I remember the question, getting into comedy. There was a guy that would come to our schools. His name is Michael Pritchard. And he was a comedian, was like a really good comedian in like the 80s. And
Sounds
then
familiar.
found God. He's huge in the Bay Area. Found God, left like he opened for the Pope at Candlestick Park. And
JP the second. Oh God, I remember that set. Completely fucking bombed.
that's when I found my purpose. Yeah. He
found comedy, lost God.
Yeah. Well, he gave up comedy kind of. He gave up the pursuit. He was like on Carson and was on Taxi. He was best friends with Robin Williams. Robin Williams came in second in the San Francisco International Company. He won it.
That's where I know his name.
Yeah, he won like a color TV, like a 13-inch color TV. Is the coolest thing in the world. They were best friends to the end. I got to meet Robin, and then he would come around every few years to all the schools and do like a motivational anti-bullying thing, which was like unusual back then.
Yeah.
Like now it's very public, but back then it was just like his mission to make sure kids are doing okay mentally. And he's very much like a religious guy too. But like spiritual, not like this strict.
Not evangelical.
He's a comic. And so he would do these impressions, and it was like the funniest thing I'd ever seen. And then 4 years went by in my elementary school, and he came back and did it. And I like knew the jokes. Wow. And now seeing the special again, like live, and he was just the coolest guy in the world to me. And then in high school, I ended up playing football with one of his sons. And his son was like a year older than me, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm having some friends over," and I like got invited, and they're all older kids, and we went over to their house, and I'm like, "Dude, your dad," I knew his dad's jokes, and he's like, "Dude, Dad, this guy like knows all your material," and I would go stay at his house all the time, and I would just hang out with his dad. I would just like hang out in the pool, and like he'd talk about life, and he would go do benefit shows. For like big brothers, big sisters. He took me, just me, and it was like, he would talk about joke writing and lessons in stand up.
Oh my God.
And we got to this event. He introduced me to all these comedians. And
this was high school?
I was in high school. And then like when I was like at 22, I like went to my first open mic and would like tell him about it. And he was like so supportive.
You had like a true mentor.
Wow.
Kind of, but he was so removed. Like he hadn't done it since the 80s. So when I'd ask him stuff, he's like, I don't, I had my thing, but now my thing is like away from it. And his oldest son, who I didn't know, the one who was like cool and off to college and would come back once in a while, he created Workaholics with those guys. And then he sold it to Comedy Central. And he was kind of, when I first moved to LA, he would come get lunch with me, and he wasn't in the comedy world really. He wanted to make like movies, and he fell in love with like the cinematic kind of world and screenwriting. Like he reads like 20 books a week and like just very much like a writer. But he was always like supportive and would check in and give me advice. So they were a big. Al Madrigal talked about Michael Pritchard got him into comedy because he would ride his bike home, and like they were in the SF comedy scene in the 80s, so they'd be outside on like Clement Street just joking and goofing off, and he's like, Michael Pritchard's like the funniest person I've ever seen in my life. And that I wanted to like do that. I don't know what that was, but like I wanted that. And I met him like later in life, but and then I was a busboy, and I was like, he didn't really like hold my hand into comedy. He just like showed me this is what this is.
And gave you like a little bit of encouragement.
And I'll see you around, and then I would like do a show and tell him about it, and he would he like still remembers like my first joke. And he would like tell me to tell other people, and introduce me to Robin Williams, and it was cool. It was really cool to have that. And then I just lived in San Francisco and was miserable, and then I started doing it more, and then I went to grow weed with my dad in like Yuba City, and that was right as like that world was falling apart, and it didn't turn out. Obviously, it was a half-brained scheme that was going terribly, and I was bored out of my mind. And so I'd go to open mics in Sacramento. I'd drive an hour every week and go do open mic, and I felt like the rush of it all. And moved back to San Francisco, went back to school, and started really hitting comedy, and then started finding my way in that scene.
Now you're at the goddamn Comedy Store.
The world famous.
But it's all like rejection all the time. Like I moved here in 2018. I would go up in front of Adam and try to get discovered that way, and it would just kind of, I don't know. I would get some laugh, but like he never would talk to me. And then Emily took over, and I like finally got a shot in front of her, and that went great. It's just always like the people who get stuff. Everything that you want, you notice that it's not there, and you notice when it is there for other people.
Yeah.
But you never really appreciate the things that you do have that you take for granted, that someone is looking at you like they're so lucky they get that shit.
Ah, that's such a good point.
You know, like you don't think about, it's like you remember who wronged you when you were little or like embarrassed you when you were younger, high school.
Yeah.
But you might have embarrassed someone. You have no recollection of that.
Right.
It's always the things that like make you feel like you're missing something that you hang on to for whatever reason. And when I see people, you know, it's funny. Like I've been a door guy at the Comedy Store for like 2 years, over 2 years now. And or actually almost exactly 2 years. And there's this point where you become like, oh man, I got to get past. Like I got to become a paid regular. I got to get back out into stand up. Seating people in a room is not my thing. But when I first got hired, I'm like, this is the coolest thing in the world. And then older comics like Saul would be like, give it a few years. You're gonna,
you're
I'm
gonna...
like, I'm never gonna be sick
How
of this.
long have you been there?
2 years exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I see other people like, I got up at Friends and Family for the first time.
Yeah.
And there's so much hope. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, got up at the end of the night. There's no one in there. Like, but it's like, it doesn't matter. Like you got up on that stage. It's like the people.
The goalposts keep moving.
The goalposts stay moving, and you got to find a way to appreciate everything for what it is. And like the scariest part is when the fun goes away, because then you're like, what? Well,
what are we doing here?
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, what is the kid who was, 15, 16, loving stand up? If your kid version saw you now, they'd be like, what?
Yeah,
They're
so
in
true.
LA. They got a show.
Yeah.
They have a podcast. They have shows at comedy clubs. Audiences come to see them.
It's so true.
And you're like, dude, it feels nothing like how you're describing.
Well, it's a good exercise, and it really sort of circles back to you mentioning how your mom just like kind of stayed on the side of gratitude and optimism. And I cannot thank you enough for sharing that story. This has been such an amazing episode, and I'm so sad that we have to wrap it up, but
I'm so sad we can't clip your entire mom's story into a 30-second.
Yeah, I'm very unclippable with that one. Yeah.
Oh, we have plenty of clips in here. Don't worry. But that one, it's just like, oh, I want everyone to hear it.
I can try and conjunct it. Child slave, turn American, James Cameron,
turn
what?
pilot. Oh, thanks for doing the heavy lifting for me there.
I believe I can fly. Okay, so in addition to your sketch and your Instagram, which we will plug in the show notes, is there anything you'd like to promote?
Joke Off Live. It's a comedy show that we do. It's a really fun joke writing, audience participation show. We do it at the Improv. And now we're also doing that at the Comedy Store. If you could follow that on Instagram, it's at Joke Off Live. And Zack Chapaloni. I'm going to start rolling out some of the sketches and stuff and some acting reel stuff, trying to organize it more of a resume type of thing. So follow me and enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey, everyone.
That's been our episode. Thank you for enjoying this episode and journey with us. Until next time, I've been Christy Bana.
I'm Lynn Molly.
And I'm Zack Chapaloni.
See you later. Goodbye.
Bye.